Well, hello there, everybody. How are you doing? Hope you've been enjoying all the videos. A little bit of humor going on there last week with the shorts. Well, okay. What we're looking forward to is Mercury retrograde, right? Which is happening July the 17th, 18th, depending where you are. So, because next week begins with the 14th of July, which is the French National Day, let's grab a croissant or something red and French and think about Mercury retrograde. Now, as you'll all know, Mercury retrograde is a much talked about astrology event. It's the time of year when the kind of newspapers, the magazines are going to be chatting about potential doom and gloom involving the Mercury retrograde. Some of it's a little bit hyperbolic, to be frank, but a lot of it is need to know information. So, Mercury, of course, is named after the messenger god. It governs all things to do with commerce, communication, short-distance travel, and also our daily communications, the 9 to 5, and kind of relationship nitty-gritty and communications. Now, when it's retrograde, it means these things can go haywire. So on a basic level, be prepared for travel chaos. Pack yourself an extra sandwich, bottle of water, keep a shovel in your car, although it's not really snowing at the moment. Is it, any good advice your mom would give you? Now, this particular Mercury retrograde, it's in Leo, and it's going to coincide with holiday Armageddon because most of Europe, particularly Britain, obviously, will be out for summer holidays, or nearly so. And at this time of year, Murphy's Law, if everyone's going on holiday, there's going to be travel problems. Channel Tunnel's going to be clogged, trains, French air traffic control striking. We can all see that coming a mile away. But there are other elements germane to Mercury retrograde. More difficulty communicating with our partner, perhaps feeling understood, finding people more erratic, irritating, and unpredictable. That's a thing. And Mercury can cause misinformation to thrive, so it's a lot harder to get your point across to other people, to cut through the bullshit. You may have a bit of mind fog, and you also have to be skeptical. So seeing is believing. Make sure if you hear a little bit of information, make sure you can verify it. Is it accurate or is it a lot of guff? Now, during Mercury retrograde, people tend to make promises they won't deliver on. They may speak out of ego, not logic. This retrograde is, after all, in Leo. So that's why you have to be skeptical. It's also a retrograde where you have to be mindful and responsible with the way you process and deliver communication, always understanding that you need to be succinct, direct. You want to avoid misinterpretation as much as possible by other people, so get to the point, emphasize the headline thing that you want to get across to their heads, right? So Mercury retrograde doesn't mean it's a bad time for contracts or deals, commerce-related stuff, but you've really got to get out your glasses, and read the fine print, because this is where it can all go tits up. Okay, so Mercury retrograde in Leo, however, tells us that there's a glimmer of gold within the rock because it actually helps us to refine our approach and pivot. In moments of crisis, we also face moments of truth, and therefore it's quite beneficial that Mercury retrograde happens 3 to 4 times a year because there's always a time so we can take a little pit stop, have a little rethink, analyze what the hell are we really doing, why are we doing it, do a little bit of recalibration, right, and a rethink. So this comes to relationships too, or any part of our life. So understand what kind of communication isn't working and getting results. Just have a rethink. It's also important to understand that this is a time when exes can come crawling back, or when your current partner or date gives you mixed messages. So the key thing is, don't react, right? Just sit back, wait for the next shoe to drop. Now, Mercury rules Gemini, so everything's a double-edged sword. There's always 2 sides to each story, so there's always 2 chapters to a story. Never react to the first piece of information. Wait for the follow-up, right? So, although there's going to be a lot of doom mongers out there saying, oh my God, it's Mercury retrograde, although you need to be a little bit cautious, like shoring up travel plans, backing up data, and being a bit more careful for communication, there are also nuggets of gold. There's a lot of energies that you can tap into that can actually be really helpful. And I feel that a lot of astrologers just don't emphasize this enough. So what am I talking about? It's Mercury retrograde in Leo. And there's a little bit of genius when it comes to Mercury in Leo, because it's empowered as Leo's ruled by the sun, and it's such a creative, powerful sign. So this brings added punch to your intellect, making it a great time for finding creative solutions to problems. And so be both positive and proactive about your brainstorming and research, and take an imaginative and creative approach to problems you're tackling in life or in love, right? So what Leo represents is also vitality. It's the love of life. So sometimes with Mercury retrograde, it's enlivening to connect with those things that bring us the most joy and help us to feel that sort of spark of creativity and eternity within us. So connect with both your creative and your romantic spark and make sure you do things that make you feel alive. Do things out of love, right? Leo, of course, it's the sign of love. It's being in love with love. It's both romantic love and pragmatic love, because Leo's a fixed sign. And that's why with Mercury retrograde, it's a time to re-engineer your relationship to make sure that you are helping each other in practical ways, but that the life draws you together as a couple so that you're always adapting and making sure that you're making memories, not just keeping up with routines. Draw that creative spark into your relationship and use this Mercury retrograde to think harder about what could really bring romance and a true spark to your love life and reawaken the spirit of romance in your life. Right. So Mercury retrograde in Leo is being mindful about romance, your approach to life and problem solving, your creative spark. It's also about redefining your creative skills so that you are making the most of yourself. Like if you're an artist, you need good materials, right? It's not just about the art, it's also about the craft. So get back to basics, work hard at your craft, make sure you buy yourself some new materials so that you are all set to take your creativity to the next level, and apply that analogy to all forms of love. Use this Mercury in Leo to put yourself in a better place. And as Leo is a sign of also being positive and optimistic, Mercury retrograde is a good time to work harder at the mantras and affirmations you have about prosperity, self-worth, and your imaginative creative power. And I always say creativity doesn't mean you're an artist, a dancer, an actor. It means that you live your life in a way where you put your unique stamp on it, where you take things, make it your own. And one other thing that's so important as well with Mercury retrograde is internal dialogue and conversation. So don't just sit there and distract yourself. Use this time of the retrograde to sit back, to think about what you're doing, why you're doing it. Question yourself, analyze your motives, your approaches, be a little bit critical, but in a positive way. What can you change? What can you do better? All right? Because Mercury retrograde is all about that recalibration and rethink. So I want you to be empowered. It's Mercury retrograde in Leo. So it's all about recapturing power through the strength of your own intellect. So back yourself to think yourself out of problems, to think yourself into a better situation, whether it's in love or life. Thanks, guys. Hope you will give me a like, a subscribe. Hope you like the channel. And yeah, hope to see you again soon.